They were trained to lie, taught to kill, and sworn to serve flags that didn't fly for love. But when MI6 operative Nova Rios crosses paths with CIA ghost Dante Voss on opposite ends of a covert mission, everything about the job starts to unravel, including the walls around their hearts. In a world where betrayal is currency and truth is fatal, falling in love might be their most dangerous assignment yet. Hello family, welcome to Storytime with Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The cold in Vienna didn't just cling, it pierced. The kind that slipped under coats and into bones, leaving even trained agents like Nova Rios wishing for warmth. She adjusted her black scarf higher over her mouth, exhaled into it, and scanned the narrow alley with her gloved fingers wrapped around a steel thermos of stale coffee. 3 hours into surveillance, and the mark still hadn't shown. The alley outside the antique bookstore was empty, but Nova knew better than to trust quiet streets in old cities. This one was a well-worn artery of secrets. Her earpiece buzzed, just static. The MI6 team she was supposed to be coordinating with had gone silent 20 minutes ago. Either bad tech or worse news. She hated Vienna. Too elegant for its own good. Too many ghosts in the architecture. Nova leaned against the brick wall, eyeing the bookstore's rear entrance. A shipment was due to arrive tonight, highly encrypted military-grade weapons software, supposedly buried inside a stack of antique manuscripts. The kind of deal governments didn't like to admit they knew about. And then movement. A dark figure emerged from a side street, walking like he owned the night. Confident. Intentional. Nova's hand instinctively found the grip of her concealed pistol. He wore a long charcoal coat, and the way he moved was too smooth, too familiar. Not a courier. Not a thug. She narrowed her eyes. Spy. The man didn't head for the front. He circled toward the back, same as she had. A second set of boots in the game. Nova moved. Silent steps on the wet cobblestone as she followed him from a distance. When he paused at the security keypad by the bookstore's rear service door, she caught a glimpse of his profile under the dim yellow light. Sharply cut jaw, hair tousled just enough to seem unintentional. She knew that face. Dante Voss. CIA. Vanished from the grid 8 months ago during a failed extraction op in Tunis. Rumors claimed he was either dead or turned. And yet, here he was, cracking the lock like it owed him a favor. Nova stepped into view. Funny place for a resurrection, she said coolly. Dante turned slightly, hands still on the keypad, not startled. Just amused. British, right? I can tell by the condescension. She didn't blink. This is an MI6 operation. That's adorable, he replied, punching in a final code. The door clicked open. Except it's CIA turf now. Nova lifted her weapon. Step away from the door. Dante glanced at the gun, then at her. You don't want to do that. You don't want to find out if I do. The standoff stretched a moment longer. 2 wolves in opposing colors. Then, from inside, came the faint hum of servers, the unmistakable sound of a data transfer already in progress. Nova cursed under her breath. The deal was already happening. Dante turned back to the door. We don't have time to argue. Against every instinct, she let him walk in first. Because Nova wasn't sure what was worse. That she might have to shoot Dante Voss tonight, or that a part of her didn't want to. London was wet again. It always seemed to be when Nova came home. Rain blurred the neon reflections on the car window as the black MI6 sedan cruised along the embankment. She sat in the back seat, arms crossed, watching the city rush past, tall buildings wrapped in glass and secrets. No one spoke. Her handler, a wiry man named Hensley, waited for her at Vauxhall Cross with a coffee she didn't want and questions she wouldn't answer. You let him get away, he said, leading her down the corridor toward the briefing room. The walls buzzed with fluorescence. You had a clean shot. Nova stopped walking. He wasn't the mission. The drive was. Which, by the way, we lost because you failed to mention the CIA was running parallel ops. Hensley turned slowly. We didn't know. Nova's laugh was short and hollow. You're telling me MI6 didn't know that a supposedly dead CIA agent was alive and targeting the same auction I was assigned to? Either we're blind or they're lying. Possibly both. Hensley didn't answer. He just handed her the case file. Top sheet, Dante Voss. Status, classified. Unconfirmed operational. She stared at the photo. Same smirk. Same eyes that read too deeply, too fast. He's dangerous, Nova, Hensley said, lowering his voice. Last year he burned 3 assets in Warsaw to protect his cover. We still don't know who he's working for now. Nova handed the file back. Neither do I. But that wasn't true. There was something in the way Dante had looked at her in Vienna, right before they broke into that bookstore together and found nothing but an empty room and a triggered decoy system. No files. No auction. Just red herrings and overlapping shadows. Like someone wanted them both there for reasons that hadn't surfaced yet. 2 days later, Berlin. Nova stood in the glass elevator of the Hotel Adelbrecht. The silver dress they gave her glittering under the chandelier light like a razor in disguise. Her hair was pinned high, her pistol hidden along the inside of her thigh. The mission tonight was surveillance. Intel suggested the arms dealer, Mikhail Petrov, would be meeting a buyer during a gala charity auction. Nova's job was to identify the buyer, get close, and plan a tracker. Easy. At least, until she saw Dante Voss, again, standing at the bar in a tailored tux like the world owed him a favor. He turned just as she did. Their eyes locked across the room. And just like that, every plan she had unraveled. He strode toward her. The music swelled. She considered drawing her weapon under the cover of the crowd, but she didn't. Instead, he offered his arm. "Looks like we're working together tonight," he said with a smirk. She didn't take it. According to who? Joint Task Force. MI6 and CIA are suddenly best friends. Surprise. He leaned in slightly. "Guess you make quite the impression." "Don't flatter yourself," she muttered, but let him lead her toward the grand staircase. Their roles were clear now. Play the couple, get close to Petrov, and don't blow the cover. No matter how many knives were waiting behind those charming smiles. Nova's heels clicked in sync with Dante's steps. They looked perfect on the outside. But inside, she knew. Nothing about this was clean. And trust? That was the most dangerous weapon in the room. The ballroom glittered with menace. Crystal chandeliers hung like upside-down daggers from the high ceiling, casting fractured light across marble floors and polished masks. Berlin's elite sipped champagne and made small talk under the watchful eyes of bodyguards disguised as waitstaff. And in the center of it all, Nova Rios tried to focus on the mission, not the man beside her. Dante's arm was warm against hers. Too warm. He moved through the crowd like he belonged in it, his tux perfectly pressed, his smile weaponized. "Petrov's in the northeast corner," he murmured under his breath, glass in hand. 3 guards. One's packing a Russian-made OSA pistol under that dinner jacket. Left side. Nova barely nodded, catching the reflection of their target in a passing champagne tray. "He's nervous," she said. "Taps the inside of his watch every 15 seconds. Might be wired. Or he's waiting for someone worse." "Worse than you," she said dryly. Dante flashed her a look. Half amused, half something else. "You wound me, Rios." The plan was simple. Mingle, gather intel, plant the tracker in Petrov's briefcase, and get out before backup showed. But simplicity had a way of evaporating around Dante Voss. As they approached the lounge, Petrov's eyes found them. He raised a glass in silent greeting, then leaned to whisper something to his guard. The man moved instantly, head on a swivel, scanning. Nova felt it in her ribs before she saw it. Trouble. Behind them, 2 men in nondescript suits were moving fast. Not Petrov's men. Not security. Not friendly. "They're here for us," Dante said. "How charming." "Split up?" Nova asked. "Not tonight." He pulled her around the corner into a side hallway just as the goons spotted them. A violinist's solo masked the sound of footsteps as they ducked behind a pillar near the open-air balcony. "They're closing in," Nova said. Dante's eyes scanned the space, calculating. Then he turned to her. "Kiss me." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Trust me." "Not likely." "Then fake it like your life depends on it." Before she could argue, he cupped her jaw and pulled her in. His lips met hers, confident, practiced, but unexpectedly real. Heat bloomed through her chest like a lit match in gasoline. She didn't pull away. In fact, she leaned into it. The footsteps slowed past them, then faded entirely. Just two lovers sneaking a moment of passion in a shadowed hallway. Nothing to see here. They broke apart, breath caught somewhere between survival and something dangerous. Nova stared at him, stunned. You planned that? Dante smiled. Improvised, actually. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Next time, ask. He shrugged. Where's the fun in that? Remind me to shoot you later. Get in line. Their comms crackled. Hensley's voice. Abort. Repeat, abort. Petrov's pulling out. Someone tipped him off. Nova looked toward the ballroom. The deal was gone. But the kiss? The kiss was still lingering. And that, she realized, was going to be a much bigger problem. The cold glow of monitors cast blue shadows across Nova's face as she crouched behind a steel server rack inside a gutted data center in Prague. Everything smelled like dust and electricity. 10 minutes until extraction. 5 until Dante was supposed to finish his part of the job. She glanced at the digital watch strapped inside her wrist, counting down in silence. Tick, tick, tick. This mission wasn't built for elegance. No masquerade balls or velvet cover stories. Just grime, nerves, and stealth gloves. Their target, an encrypted drive buried deep within a NATO contractor's off-grid backup archive, rumored to hold access protocols for tactical nuclear launch systems. Whoever held it didn't just have leverage, they had control. Nova checked her comm again. Static. She hated static. From the stairwell above came a sudden metallic clang. She drew her sidearm and ducked behind the rack. A flashlight beam swept the aisle, slow and searching. Check private security, mercs on retainer. Not highly trained, but enough to ruin your night with a bullet. Then a shadow dropped silently behind the guard. One strike to the throat, one to the ribs, and the man folded like bad scaffolding. Nova exhaled. Dante emerged from the dark, the drive in hand, grinning like he'd just lifted a toy from a vending machine. Miss me? He asked. She holstered her weapon. How'd you get past the retinal scan? He shrugged, already moving. Borrowed an eyeball. Nova stared. You're joking. Am I? They moved together down the corridor toward the exit shaft. There was something different about him tonight, his movements sharper, but his face distant, as if some invisible weight had hitched itself to his spine. She caught up. You didn't kill that guard, right? Dante glanced at her. No. I try not to when I'm with you. The words landed strangely. They reached the service ladder and started climbing. The metal creaked with every rung. Above them, gunfire erupted. Dante cursed, ducking as a spray of bullets ricocheted down the shaft. We've got company. Backtrack? Nova asked. No time. He reached into his belt and handed her the drive. Take this. What? You're faster. Smaller. I'm not leaving you behind. You're not. I'll draw them off. We meet at Rendezvous Delta. You've done this before. Not like this, she snapped. He paused, eyes serious now, no grin, no charm. Just the man behind the smirk. Nova, if they catch me, they'll break me. But you, they won't even see you coming. For a beat, the world narrowed to just them. Smoke. Breath. Code. She nodded once. No time for goodbye. Nova turned and vanished into the air duct. Like a ghost. Behind her, she heard him shout, fire a warning shot, and run, loud and deliberate, like a decoy who knew exactly what price he was paying. By the time she reached the extraction point on the rooftop, rain had begun to fall in curtains. The chopper was late. She clutched the drive in her gloved hand, heart racing. But not from fear. From the way he'd looked at her. From the fact that this time, she'd left someone behind. And it wasn't just a partner. It was Dante Voss. And that terrified her more than the mission ever could. The hotel in Madrid was too expensive to be real. Nova sat on the edge of a sunlit bed, still wearing her boots, as she reviewed the decrypted files from the stolen drive. Lines of code reflected in her eyes, sharp and shifting, coordinates, launch authorizations, Black Ops personnel lists. It was worse than anyone thought. This wasn't leverage. It was control over half the Western world's most sensitive weapons systems. And tucked deep in the code metadata was something else. An access key. Not MI6. Not NATO. CIA. She stared at it, numb. Dante. He'd handed her this drive. Told her to run. Told her to trust him. And now the only verifiable trace signature pointed straight back to Langley. Her calm vibrated private channel. Hensley. Nova, his voice crackled. We have a problem. Only one. The CIA's flagged Dante Voss as a traitor. They've issued a shoot-on-sight protocol. Her breath froze. Why? They claim he stole the drive to sell to private interests. This wasn't a join-up. The agency's disavowing everything. She stood slowly. You think I helped him? Silence. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She killed the calm her hands were shaking. If Dante had planned this from the beginning, used her to get the drive out, set her up as cover, then he was more than a liar. He was the enemy, but she remembered his face in the Prague server room. The way he'd handed her the drive, like it burned him. The panic he'd hidden with a smile. No one fakes that kind of fear. And no one dies for someone unless they care. She needed to know the truth. She found him in the ruins of a safe house in Tangier, an old French colonial shell overlooking the sea, walls crumbling, windows covered with fabric instead of glass. He was nursing a bruised shoulder, one hand cradling a pistol. His eyes narrowed when she stepped inside. You shouldn't be here. You lied to me, she said, holding up the drive. There's a CIA key buried in the code. You gave me this. Why? Dante exhaled slowly. He didn't stand. Because I couldn't carry it anymore. She approached cautiously. Explain. They used me, he said. Langley. They embedded a ghost key months ago. Told me it was just a test op, said it would never activate. That it was insurance. But I found out, someone higher up plans to sell access to the highest bidder. Black market deterrence, they called it. Peace through mutually assured profit. And you went along with it? I tried to stop it. I failed. So I stole the drive. Then gave it to the only person I trusted to do the right thing. Nova stared. Me. Dante looked up at her, eyes tired. Yeah. You. Silence fell between them like dust. Then she slapped him. Hard. Across the face. You should have told me. I didn't want to drag you into it. Too late. Her hand lingered in the air for a moment, then dropped. And then, without warning, she kissed him. It wasn't like before. It wasn't for cover or survival. It was messy, raw, filled with the rage of betrayal and the ache of belief. He kissed her back like he'd been holding his breath since Prague. When they broke apart, Nova whispered, We bring this whole thing down. All of it. Dante nodded. And for the first time since Vienna, she saw the man, not the mask. The storm rolled in just after midnight. Rain lashed sideways against the cracked shutters of the Tangier safe house, turning the coast into a watercolor of shadows and salt. Inside, a single lantern cast soft amber light across peeling paint, maps, weapons, and two people pretending not to be broken. Nova sat at the window, legs tucked beneath her, watching the world disappear in the downpour. She'd been quiet for an hour. Dante didn't interrupt. Some silences were tactical. Others were sacred. He leaned against the opposite wall, shirt half unbuttoned, shoulder wrapped in gauze. The bullet wound wasn't fatal, but it was a reminder. Their time was limited. Someone would come for them. CIA, MI6, or worse. You don't steal nuclear codes and get a retirement party. You always run to Morocco when you screw up? She asked at last. Dante grinned without turning. Just when I think someone might shoot me in the head for trying to do the right thing. She smirked. It faded. I believed you were dirty, she said quietly. For about 15 minutes. And I hated myself for hoping you weren't. Dante crossed the room and sat beside her. I lied to you, he said. Not about what mattered. But still I did. Nova studied his face. You're trained to lie. So am I. That's not the part that scared me. What did? How badly I wanted you to be telling the truth. The rain softened. Just a whisper now, tapping glass that wasn't there. Dante took a deep breath. I never wanted a partner. Never thought I could have one. But in Berlin, when we were on that staircase, I stopped looking for exits. Nova looked down at the pistol beside her, at his hand inches from hers. I haven't trusted anyone since Moscow, she said. Since my cover got blown and 3 agents died because I believed someone I shouldn't have. I swore I'd never make that mistake again. You didn't, he said. She finally looked at him. And slowly, deliberately, she reached for his hand. Fingers interlocked like puzzle pieces worn from use, but still a fit. They didn't speak for a while. Just listened, to the storm, to each other's breath, to the silence that no longer felt like an enemy. Then Nova whispered, "When this is over, what's left of us?" Dante thought for a long time. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I'd like to find out." Outside, the rain began to stop. But they stayed in the safe house. Not because it was safe, but because for the first time, it felt like somewhere they both belonged. They didn't hear the breach, just felt it. One moment the safe house was still, steeped in the hush of morning. The next, a flash grenade exploded in the stairwell, washing the room in white and thunder. Nova hit the floor instinctively. Her pistol was already in her hand. Dante yelled something, but it was drowned by the sound of boots on concrete and a door being kicked in. Then blackness. She came to in a cold metal chair, wrists zip-tied behind her. The light above flickered. A single interrogation bulb suspended in a room that smelled like antiseptic and bad promises. Across the table, Hensley. "Me 6. His sleeves were rolled up. No tie. Eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep or excessive certainty. "I hoped it wasn't true," he said. "But here we are." Nova didn't speak. Her mouth was dry. Her head throbbed. He dropped a folder in front of her. It fanned out with crisp pages, operation briefs, flight logs, encrypted message intercepts. All with her signature. All doctored. "I never sent those," she said. "No," Hensley agreed. "But someone made it look like you did. Do you understand what this means?" She leaned forward, zip ties cutting into her skin. "That you've already decided I'm guilty." Hensley exhaled. "I trained you. Watched you go from surveillance to field ops. I told them you weren't the leak. But then this showed up." He slid another document across the table. A photo. Blurry but unmistakable. Nova and Dante. Kissing. The hallway in Berlin. Her stomach twisted. "They'll call it compromised judgment," he said. "Romantic entanglement. Operational breach. But what they really mean is betrayal." Nova raised her head slowly. "And what do you believe?" He didn't answer. The door opened behind him. CIA agents. Black suits. Blank expressions. Dante was dragged in, bloodied but upright. They shoved him into a chair across from her. He didn't look at her. Not at first. But when he did, there was no apology in his eyes. Only pain. "They're blaming you for everything," he said hoarsely. "And you," she whispered. "I'm not." A pause. "Because I know who the real traitor is." Nova stared. He nodded toward Hensley. And everything fell into place. The botched extraction in Vienna. The silence on the comms. The fake documents. The CIA's sudden involvement. All of it manipulated. Controlled. From inside. Nova's voice was barely above a breath. "You set me up." Hensley didn't flinch. "You made it easy. All I had to do was push. You walked right into each other's arms. And now what?" Dante growled. "You kill us and bury the story?" "Not necessary," Hensley said, adjusting his cuffs. "You'll be declared rogue agents. Accused of espionage. Shot trying to escape. A footnote no one will question." But as he turned to leave, Nova moved. Fast. She slammed the chair backward, breaking the legs and snapping the zip tie against the sharp edge of the table. Pain flared down her wrist, but she was free. By the time the guards raised their weapons, she had Dante's backup knife and was already behind them. 2 seconds later, one man was on the floor. Another stumbled backward. Dante tackled the third. Gunfire. Alarms. They didn't wait. They ran through the maze of corridors, Dante bleeding, Nova guiding. She hit the emergency panel at the rear stairwell and burst into a storage bay with flickering red lights and a rumbling delivery truck. A miracle. They dove inside just as the doors shut and the engine roared. Nova slumped against the wall, heart pounding like a war drum. Beside her, Dante groaned. "We need to stop meeting like this." She looked over at him. At everything they'd just survived. At everything they still hadn't said. And finally she smiled. "We're not done yet." 6 months later. The waves licked the Moroccan coast in slow, lazy pulses, turning the beach into a mirror of gold and shadow as the sun dipped toward the sea. A fire crackled low in the sand pit, smoke curling into the evening air like a secret too old to matter anymore. Nova Rios watched it from the porch of the small beach house, bare feet tucked under her, a well-worn paperback resting open in her lap. She wasn't reading it. Hadn't been for a while. Inside, the sound of clinking glass and a half-muttered curse signaled Dante's latest attempt at dinner. He still didn't understand local stoves. "Everything okay in there?" she called without looking. A pause. "Define okay." She smiled. Moments like this still didn't feel real. Quiet. Domestic. Safe. They had faked their deaths 2 weeks after the escape, planted burned corpses in a bombed-out alley in Marseille, courtesy of a contact Dante swore, owed him a favor and a kidney. From there, it was forged identities, quiet bribes, and a slow fade into obscurity. They were gone now. Off the grid. Out of the game. And yet, not untethered. Dante stepped outside carrying 2 mismatched bowls of something steaming. He wore an unbuttoned linen shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbow, a knife still tucked into the waistband of his shorts. Some habits, it turned out, survived even paradise. He handed her a bowl, then dropped beside her. "It's technically food," he said. She tasted it. Technically. They ate in silence for a while, listening to the waves and the wind. Around them, the world felt heavy with peace. It was unfamiliar, almost disorienting. Dante broke the quiet first. "Do you miss it?" Nova looked at him. "The missions?" He nodded. "Sometimes," she said. "Not the orders. Or the lies. But the clarity. You always knew who the enemy was." He poked the fire absently. "It was never that simple." "No," she admitted. "But it felt like it." She studied him for a moment. His face was different now. Less armor, more man. The kind of tired that doesn't come from running, but from finally stopping. "I've never said it," he murmured, not looking at her. "Not properly." "Said what?" "That I love you." The words hung in the air. No mission, no lies, no cover story. Just truth. Nova didn't blink. Didn't breathe for a second. And then she whispered, "You're late." Dante turned to her, brow raised. She leaned in, touched her forehead to his. "I've loved you since Berlin." He kissed her then, slow and certain, the kind of kiss that didn't need urgency anymore. Only presence. The fire burned low. The sea murmured its lullaby. And in a world that had tried to erase them, 2 ghosts found a reason to live. Not for the mission, but for each other.